recordings of my own voice.
Okay, hi again.
Hey.
Interviewer talking now. So why did you decide to choose the story about lupus for the show?
Well, Annie, I didn't necessarily choose to tell the story about lupus. I actually kind of wanted to make it less focused on that after a little bit. The reason I decided on using Annie for this project and not any of the other people that I interviewed was because she was the first person I talked to. She's literally been working with me since probably like the third week of school this year. She's been very involved, and she also has an interest in a lot of the things that I was exploring, more than anyone else, I think, that I interviewed. And when I came up with my idea for like the final iteration of this project that only involved one person, she was the first person I told, because I know she's really excited about puppets too, and she was just so great and happy and wonderful about it. And so I actually did, because her original recording was only about her like experience with lupus. I originally had her and my friend Frankie speaking, but when I decided to only have Annie, I decided that for a while I focused on the lupus thing, but then it just became a project about lupus, and that wasn't what it was supposed to be about. And I also, we had a pretty long conversation, and we're struggling a lot together about how careful we had to be to not make this basically the lupus project, and to not turn her into the lupus poster girl, and basically like make her like, oh, I saw this person in this show last year and she was just talking about lupus, she's the lupus girl. Like, that's not something that I was trying to do, because Annie isn't just lupus. A lot of what this project was about was trying to figure out who someone is, with the knowledge that it's really impossible to know who someone is exactly if you're not them. Like, I had no idea that Annie had lupus before this project, and I didn't want it to become the kind of thing where it was like I completely reduced her personality to someone having lupus. So there are a couple other things that she talks about in the audio. She talks about her relationship with clothing. She talks about her, like, she has a really happy personality. Like most people, I think, just sort of see her as like a sunshiny flower. And then there was one other thing that she talked about. I don't remember what it is. Oh, about how she has an issue with taking on too many things at one time and kind of overloading her schedule. So, that was a really long answer, I'm sorry.
No, you should do that for every single one.
Cool.
Just go on and on.
Okay.
Whatever you want to do. You're the star. Cool. So then, in regards to those interviews that you did with friends of yours, can you talk about sort of just the way that your art would intersect with life and your friendships, and maybe talk about how the performance did that? Because, like, obviously.
Yeah, first of all, my relationship with Annie, I feel like with this project, got a lot deeper just because I got to know her so much better, and I was hanging out with her all the time because I had her come and practice with me at least once a week for the last 2 months, and like, obviously I'm trying, like, once we got past the whole lupus thing, it was like I was trying to find lots of other things that I could include, and so I was interviewing about everything, and like, it just became the kind of thing where I was almost going crazy trying to figure out who Annie was. And while I think that like trying to do that specifically is really hard, I learned a lot about interviewing in that like you kind of just have to let the person talk, and you can ask a question and then you just wait until they have nothing else to say, and then you can ask another question, because it's about them and like your questions are important, but you want them to talk about themselves. And it was the same with my other friends that I interviewed. I have one friend that I interviewed, and she very much is the kind of person who feels like she has to be the strong friend, so she doesn't talk about her own problems or like struggles a lot with other people, because she always is the strong one and is always, and she likes being that person, which is great. But I think that it was a really wonderful sort of like 20 minutes that we had where I got to listen to her talk about her childhood and her relationship with her brother and her parents, because I had actually just met her parents too, which was fun. Yeah, and sort of in doing that with this project, obviously I didn't interview everyone who came to see this piece, and that was another thing that me and Annie were thinking about. And what is going on? Is that board happening?
They have.
What time is it? Let's just keep going.
Okay.
One of the things that we had to talk about a lot and sort of like practice was I wanted Annie to kind of like surmise things from observing people, because I feel like you can sometimes pick up on things by observing people and really trying to pay attention to what they're doing. But at the same time, we assume things about people that are so incorrect all the time. And it's funny because that shows in all these notes, and some of them are incredibly accurate and some of them are really, really off, which is kind of hilarious.